Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Pies, and we're here for another classroom with PCA Sim Racing. This week, we are going to be tackling the Red Bull Ring for round 3 of our Series 11 race in the 911 GT3R 992. So we've already had 2 weeks, or 2 rounds of racing, I should say, 4 weeks of racing prior to now, starting with Spa and then last round at VIR. Red Bull Ring isn't going back to another Grade 1 FIA track like Spa. So Red Bull Ring is very typical of those types of tracks. Wide, kind of open, big long straightaways, kind of dotted with really tight corners that help facilitate passing in Formula One racing. But they can lead to some choke points in sports car racing, or at least when the cars have a pretty good parity. Couple that with a couple of very fast sweeping corners that are off camber, and you have a track that is relatively simple on paper but very difficult to master. Another aspect of Red Bull Ring is off tracks. Where do they start? Where do they end? Especially coming through the final corner, both the turn in and the exit of it is kind of an unknown a little bit. I'll try to shed a little light on that, on how far you can go without picking up a 1X. Yeah, it's a fun track. It's a very fast track. If you don't practice here, or if there are folks that don't practice here, your competitors, let's say, that aren't present in this classroom, it's tricky to get consistent for 40 minutes straight. So a very viable strategy, especially in the challenge and sport classes, could be to let other people make mistakes to move up. You don't have to pass people where you catch them, so to speak. So we'll cover all that. We'll cover passing zones as usual, and try to figure out the best way to get through the Red Bull Ring. As we load up the sim here, I wanted to see if there's any questions or any comments. We were talking about it just before I hit record, about the series so far. Anything about, like, full course yellows or anything like that that you'd like to ask, you're more than free while we load up the replay here. Okay. Has anybody been to the Red Bull Ring in real life? It's definitely one of those tracks that'd be cool to visit, it seems like. All right, so since we got the track map here up on the screen, the big two, like I said, choke points of the course are turn 1, Niki Lauda, and then the AMSAG, turn 3 down here. Everybody gets funneled down after going really high speeds into a really, really tight braking zone, and it can cause problems, to say the least. All right. Give me 1 second to make sure I've got Discord up. Pull that over here. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna go chase. So I did a few laps, and just for everybody's knowledge, I'm running the medium downforce, and I put in the proper date this time, and it just hit go. So the track temp for these laps was 99 degrees, so it was getting a little bit toasty out there. And on the medium downforce setup, characteristics with the setup around here: lots of understeer, especially when you go on power. That can be a little bit. He can catch you out a little bit if you're not ready for it, especially in the latter half of the track with those left-handed sweepers that are off camber. But we'll work around that, and we'll talk about what you can do to try to overcome that, and how you can drive the car maybe a little bit differently than what you're used to try to get the most performance out of the car that you can. So I did a bunch of laps, more than usual, just because I was trying to get over that understeer aspect that I was getting in the car. But the thing about it is, everybody's driving the exact same setup. Everybody's driving the same car. If you're having an issue with the car, don't blame the setup. Do what you can to try to find a way to fix it, or at least find a way to make it go as fast as possible, because everybody's in the same boat. So as you can see, a bunch of laps done. I did have a bunch of off tracks. When I pitted and came back out is when I started getting a good feel for what the track was kind of giving me. And so that's where I started getting the lap times down into the low 130s. But as you can see, I was starting to get pretty consistent on my first bit of stint while I was kind of just feeling the car out in the track. I did like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 laps in a row within the 10th, so I was feeling pretty good at that point. It felt like a good pace and repeatable. All right, so let's tackle this and go in. If at any point you have any questions, just yell out and the question we can go through. All right, we'll start at start finish. We'll talk about last corner when we get to it on the lap. But we're going to go ahead and tackle. Let's make sure that I'm doing the right lap. Here we are. Let's put the camera right behind the car. Perfect. Okay, so coming down the front straight at Red Bull Ring is typical of a grade 1 FIA track. Nice and wide, concrete canyon, stands and pit lane flank the track. The big difference that we have here with a lot of other tracks is we have a very Coda-esque turn 1, just going the other direction. Straight uphill, which gives the car a fantastic ability to brake. So we can brake super late and feel really confident with those brakes. What we need to do and what we need to think about on turn 1 is rolling speed through the apex. It's very, very easy to do 2 things here. 1, not slow down enough and run wide on exit, and 2, overslow the car to where you're losing speed at the apex at your minimum speed point through the corner. So what we want to do is we want to slow the car down and get it set up for a good turn-in point, but we also want to get off the brakes as fast as we can to roll the speed through, because again, we're going uphill. If we overslow the car and then try to get back on throttle to make up for it, we're going to be going uphill, and it's just going to delay the ability for us to gain those miles an hour back. So my whole thought process in turn 1 is roll speed, roll speed, roll speed, momentum, momentum, momentum. Get off the brake. My brake zone for this is the 100 board. You've also got a little flag stand here, but frankly, the 100 board stands out even better, and we got a nice line. All the brake zones here at Red Bull Ring, you want to basically be straddling the rumble strips. So long as you keep your track side tires over on the correct side of the white line, you're not going to get a 1X. So use all the track that you can without getting a 1X. Open the corners up as much as possible. That's just additional speed you can take. And yeah, use all you paid for all the track, use every ounce of it. So you'll see when I come up into here, I am using all of the track. I am going all the way over, right side tires staying on the track, not crossing the white line. But the left side of the car is definitely on the rumbles, and in some cases even over the rumbles where it allows. Braking in a straight line up the hill. Again, hard, firm brake initially. We want to go to a 10 pedal. This is definitely a threshold braking area. We're going uphill, so it'll happen quickly. And then as we approach our turn-in point, we're going to get off the brake pretty quickly. We want a late apex, and we want to basically treat this almost like a right angle. So we're going to get all our braking done in a straight line, get our turning done early in the corner, get the car rotated early so we can get on full throttle as soon as possible to go down this big long straightaway that is the straight between turns 1 and 3. So as you can see here, I'm starting my brake, threshold braking, turn in point's going to be after the white line down here. Late apex, my vision, my eyes are at this yellow curb on the inside here, and my goal is to take my right side tires and just basically kiss that curb on its left edge around the corner. So late turn in, you can see I'm pretty much already off the brakes at this point. Will do, Steve. I'm pretty much off the brakes at this point. I've already done my turn in, and I've started adding on the throttle at this point. The reason we can get away with it with this corner is look at the track. We can see a ton of track, and if we can see track visually, that means that we have camber. The track is angled towards us, so the camber in the track and in the surface is going to catch our car like a bull and allow us to kind of drive through the corner faster than we normally would. So going uphill, lots of camber, track is like this as we're going through it right there at the apex, allows us to start picking up throttle super early. So I've started picking up throttle. My right side tires are going to kiss that yellow curbing. We don't want to drive over it because, one, it's a pretty nasty bump, and if we go too far right, we can get a slowdown through here. But so long as our right side tires just barely graze the edge of it, that's ideal. And as we crest and come over through the apex of this corner, the track will start to tabletop off, but we should have our steering getting pretty darn straight coming through there, and we can be at full throttle. And as you can see here, I am getting to full throttle at this point. Basically, as soon as we crest over and get on that tabletop, I'm at full throttle. My steering wheel is starting to open up and starting to basically unwind to allow the tires to have the traction to accelerate at full throttle and get a good run coming out. If we've done it correctly, we're going to nibble this yellow curbing on the outside. If we do it incorrectly, we're going to go over this yellow curbing and it's going to be a 1x, or if we go too far, a slowdown. So fast is basically just tapping or just touching this yellow curbing. Too fast is over the curbing. Too slow is not all the way over to the curbing. So ideally, we want to end up somewhere right around the edge right here, around the neighborhood of the candy stripe curbing, with the understanding that we can go all the way left side tires on the yellow curbing and still not pick up a 1x. So it's a pretty good indicator of how well we did that corner. If I back up and don't keep pausing it, you can kind of see a better idea of what it looks like. Brake, straight up the hill, slowing the car down, running through the gears, down to second gear, turn in, off the brakes, roll the speed, back on second gear, and get a good run coming out of the corner. For those keeping score at home, my min's speed is 73, 72, 71, 70, 69. Looks like 69 miles an hour. So the car can do 69, and there's probably people that can probably do 70 through there. But that's for me on these track conditions with this setup. 69 miles an hour is about as good as I could get. Turn 1 is the most important corner on the entire track, bar none, because it leads on to the longest straightaway. You don't see the screen on disc, the Gold Sig says on Twitch. I'm watching here, but not sure if I'm the only one who doesn't see the screen on disc. I'm not sure what that question is. You guys in Discord, you can see my screen, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
got it. Got it.
So
Maybe he doesn't know that he has to click on you specifically. Maybe
that might be it. So, okay, he says never mind. Okay, just want to make sure everybody's in a good state. All right, so turn 1 again, most important corner on the entire track because it leads onto the longest straight. We want to get a good run coming through there, and I'll talk about passing towards the end. But just a preview of that, you don't want to pass into turn 1 if you can avoid it. Obviously, there's exceptions if there's a slow car, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're passing somebody for position, somebody of similar speed, you don't want to go too wide through turn 1 because it's going to hurt both of you relative to the rest of the competitors on track.
Chris, could you talk about second gear versus third gear?
Yeah, so coming through here, it's a great question. I was liking second gear because my rule of thumb is if I can get more than half a second of throttle in a gear, it makes it worth it to go down to that gear. Here, I'm finding that I'm in second gear. I'm grabbing third right here. So that means I've gone full throttle from apex, from here, all the way to the end of the curb in second gear. That is a long time and a pretty good pull coming out of the corner. If I'm in third gear, normally that's great because you can roll more speed or it tends to prevent you from overslowing. The problem is it gets to the point where it's detrimental to where you fall out of the power band. Couple the fact that we're going uphill still, especially when we're going through the apex when we should be getting on full throttle, and the fact that we're getting like over a second of full throttle time in second gear means that third gear is probably going to be a little bit on the slower side. It will be safer. You're not going to put as much torque in the rear tires, so the car is going to feel more stable, but you're probably not going to get the same level of acceleration coming out of the corner as you would in second gear. But give both a shot. It's not the same for everybody. If you're getting better runs coming through there in third gear, by all means do it. But I think all things being equal, with a pro level driver running both gears, I think they're going to get a better run coming out of it in second gear than third. All right, the only real thing to say about the straightaway is it's not straight. There is curves, and in fact turn 2 is underneath the Tomaten sign. it is a corner. All these are corners. The straightest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So we want to do that. We want to try to make this as straight as possible for 2 reasons. 1, we want to travel the least amount of distance. And 2, the less we turn our wheel, the less friction we're adding to the front tires and the less scrub. So the quicker our rate of acceleration. So keep it as straight as possible all the way down the straight. Draw a straight line. Treat it like a normal corner. But overall, shortest distance traveled is going to yield the fastest results. A question that commonly comes up with that is, okay, well, what if I'm drafting off an opponent and they're not taking the shortest? Like, what if they're following the outside of the track for whatever reason? What should I do, right? It kind of depends. In GT3 cars, the draft isn't really that strong for whatever reason. It's there, but it's not a crazy amount. In that case, I would probably on this track stick to as straight a line as possible. But play it, see what it feels like, see what feels right. But I would probably still go in as short a line as possible between 2 points on this straightaway in particular. Coming up to turn 3, which is probably one of the more difficult corners on the track because of how much you have to slow down. I mean, we're going 143 miles an hour into this brake zone. Much like turn 1, we're going straight uphill. Unlike turn 1, guess what you can't see at the apex? You can't see the track. So what does that mean? That means the camber is not there like turn 1. So where turn 1, you had a bowl going through the apex and it was grabbing you and allowing you to carry speed and through the corner. Turn 3 doesn't do that. In fact, it just disappears after the uphill part. That means that we don't have the grip at and after the apex like we did on turn 1. So what do? Well, we want to make it so when we get to that point of the corner, we're going as straight as possible because we want to be adding throttle coming out of this very slow corner. We want to use the camber to our advantage until it goes away. And all the camber is on the beginning part of this corner, everything before the apex, because we can still see the track. But as soon as we get to the apex, it all vanishes. So we're going to brake at the 100 board, again, straddling the curb as much as possible, threshold braking, super late turn in. My whole goal here for turn 1 is to apex again, right side tires getting pretty darn close to the yellow curbing, the big one. But I want to get off the throttle, roll my speed, first gear. There is a little bit of camber right here at the apex, but then it just drastically falls off. So anybody coming through here, and if you've done any practice leading up to now, you'll probably find 2 things tend to happen. Either you get on throttle too soon and you end up spinning your inside tire, or you take it too fast and you end up getting some oversteer coming through the corner. And that's because all the traction and all the camber is disappearing from the track. You're getting to a tabletop more so than you did in turn 1. Again, my thought process is I'm always down to the first gear through here. So I'm in first gear. And my goal is to get this car as straight as possible going through this apex point and getting up to the tabletop so I can have my car going straight, so I can add power and accelerate out of the corner. If I have any steering angle, really, or it feels like any steering angle after apex when I go to the accelerator, I just tend to spin up those rear tires and not go anywhere. And then traction control kicks in and it comes in and says, nope, no more fun. And it cuts the throttle as well. And then you just find yourself not getting a good run coming out of the corner. The fast way through this corner is to delay your throttle input until you get to the top of the tabletop right here. So you can see I pause for a moment on my throttle application, and then I open my hands to allow the car to give all of its grip to acceleration. So let me back it up, show it real slow. So if you watch my throttle chase, I'm off the brakes at apex, start to add throttle, and then I pause right here. Pause, and then I add full throttle coming through. The reason I pause is it's that transition between camber and tabletop. If I keep full throttle all the way through there, back end gets loose, rear tires spin up, and I get a poor run coming through. So let's show it without me stopping it. So braking, threshold braking, late turn in, off the brakes, roll my momentum through here, open my hands, and try to keep it as straight as possible to take the acceleration, to give all the grip to my my acceleration to get a good run coming out of the corner. All right, any questions between turn 1 and turn 2? Those are really tricky corners. They're very similar, but also extremely different, which doesn't really make any sense now that I say it. Nope. Okay. Well, that's a good olive.
What was your minimum speed there?
Okay,
I didn't see it.
mint speed. Really slow. It always feels like you're going so slow. 38 miles an hour right here. So you can see the difference between the two corners, right? They look very similar, but I'm going almost half the speed in turn 3. Golden Stig asked a question: what is the track limit on the exit here? The track limit on the exit here is basically getting your left tires on the other side of this yellow curbing. You'll pick up a 1X. So you don't want to. I always try not to get on this yellow curbing whatsoever, because it tends to mess with the grip of the rear tires. I want those big fat Michelins to totally be on the track surface on a flat surface. If I get one of them up on the curb, it tends to restrict the ability for me to put the power down. So I try not to touch this curbing on the way out. I'll get close to it, obviously, but not get up on it. You can get up on it and won't pick up a 1X. If you cross over it, that tends to be where you start to get the 1X.
Where's the 1X on the entry?
On the entry is the white line. So right side tires need to be right of the white line. Any further over to the left and you'll pick up the 1X. And it's very delicate. Like, you can get away with like your inside track tires, your right side tires on the white line, but it seems like as soon as they start rumbling themselves from the rumble strip, that's when the 1X happens. So it's like halfway, your right side tires halfway over this white line tends to pick up the 1X. So what I've done is I've basically said, okay, I'm just going to leave my right side tires on the track surface, put my left side tires on the left side of the rumble, and that's keeps me nice and consistent without risking a 1X there. It's very easy to pick up 1Xs in these brake zones if you're using all of the track. Okay, cool. So let's keep going. We're going to go head on down to turn, I'm guessing it's 4, but I don't know if they count these little left rights as one. We're going to call it 4. So turn 4 is, in my opinion, the trickiest corner on the track. I know I talked about turn 1 and turn 2 being more difficult corners, and I think they are for most people. For me, this corner is kind of my antithesis. This is the one I have the most trouble with here. And the reason is okay, the first, for all intents and purposes, the first 2 corners that we went through and talked about, we're going uphill. Gravity is helping us. Lots of camber assisting us on the turn-in point. It's, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to start rolling speed through there with practice. This corner is the exact opposite. We are braking downhill. We're going off camber, and the track is no longer helping us. And so the car wants to understeer. It wants to oversteer. It doesn't want to slow down. It wants to do everything it possibly can to try to make us miss this corner. So we have to go into this corner knowing that we're fighting gravity and we're fighting physics to make the corner as quick as possible. What I try to do is, again, brake at the 100 board. So that's the nice thing about all these corners. It's pretty similar brake zone for every, like in terms of distance, for almost every corner. So turn 1 was the 100 board, turn 3 was the 100 board, turn 4 is the 100 board as well. I tend to brake a little bit before, so maybe like the 125 board. So I'm hitting the brakes right here. So about 125, but just before the 100 board. I find the later I brake into this corner, while I might be able to do it and still make turn in, find it very difficult to get the car in a really good spot from a balance perspective to take the corner without feeling terrible. So braking a little bit earlier, a little bit softer to maintain a little bit better balance in the car tends to yield better results for me. Now, you may be one of those drivers that can drive it in there, threshold brake it, going downhill, stand it on its nose, and then somehow get it all collected and together right at the turn-in point and drive through. Congratulations, you're a faster driver than I am. So what I tend to do is I tend to back up the brake zone a little bit, keep a little bit more stable of a platform. So I am not necessarily threshold braking into this corner. And that way, when I transition to turn in and when I trail brake in, the car is more stable below me, and I'm able to get a more balanced car on entry. So that's what you'll see here. You'll see my brake goes down. I could probably brake a little bit harder, but I'm not. It's just a little bit of a softer brake to keep the balance of the car. I always feel like I'm turning in too early for this corner, but I'm not when I look at it back and when I play it through. But I'm turning in, and I feel like I want to use all of this as brake zone as well, which is trail braking by definition. But I really feel like my brake zone has this little bit of curve on the end of it. I'm not just hopping off the brakes after turn in. I'm keeping a little bit of brake. And the reason I'm doing that is, one, it allows me to brake a little later. But two, it keeps the weight on the nose, on those front tires, to help it turn. If I don't do that, because of the way and the orientation of the track, it's falling away from me, the front end is just going to chatter out, and we're not going to be able to get any turn in, and we're going to have to overslow the car. So by keeping the weight on the front of the car, with that trailing in, I'm able to maintain a stable platform and get the car to actually do what I want it to, and which is rotate. So you can I still have a little bit of brake force in here, pretty much at apex, which is very unusual for me. I'm in second gear through here, and my whole mindset is right side tires. I want to get as close to the grass as possible on the inside. So I want to hop up on this curb. I want to get my right side tires over this little trellis neon green portion, straddling the candy stripe curbing. And then once I get to that apex point, and once I'm up on that curb, I start feeding throttle, because what's happening is the car is bouncing up, and when it bounces up on that curve, I get a little bit more rotation from it, and I want to parlay that into even more rotation when I get on the accelerator. So when I get on the accelerator, after I get that little rotation from the curb, they get a little bit more rotation from the diff and the tires engaging to get my final rotation to get me go through this really tough corner. If I do it right and I hit the curb just right, I can get on full throttle pretty much just after apex. I don't really even have to use all of the track. In fact, I find that my fastest laps tend to be when I don't drive all the way to the curbing. I tend to go out all the way to the curbing when I turn in too early, or I run too wide. I didn't get the balance of the car correctly. But if I get it just right, I tend to run about 3/4 of the way through on track exit, not all the way to the end. So let me back that up and show what it looks like again. Coming in, brake just before the 100 board, downshift down to second gear, trail brake it all the way down to the apex, hop on that curb, off on the throttle, get that little bit of rotation, and open my hands to allow the acceleration of the car to take place. Tough corner, really difficult corner. Please don't get discouraged if you're having trouble through there. Just work on it. Overslow the car if you have to try to make sure you're getting a good line, and then you can build the speed up as you get comfortable with the line. You'll say, oh, that felt good. I felt like I can go a little faster. Add a little more speed, get off the brakes a little earlier, and just slowly start building up speed to where you're staying on track. If you go in there and you keep sending it in there and you keep running wide in the gravel, you're getting discouraged. It's hard to find the limit from going over the limit and backing it up to the limit. It's much easier to get to the limit from going under the limit and slowly increasing to the limit. All right, turn 5. This is the start of the two left-handers that are super quick, off camber, downhill. Again, car doesn't like either one of these corners, but we got to take them because they're on the racetrack. I want to get all the way car to the track right to open the corner as much as possible. I'm going to brake just before the 50 board, so it would be probably like the 60 board if there was one. And I'm going to downshift to third gear. So again, like everywhere else, straddling the curb on entry, and then everything through this point, because it's so fast, and we're going over 100 miles an hour on the turn-in point, it's very easy to kind of send it in and turn too hard on entry and unsettle the car. We want to be nice. We want to be committed and make a solid movement. We don't want to be scared of it, but we don't want to wrangle its neck. We want to just slowly add the load to the right side tires with a confident but smooth steering input. So you're not cranking the wheel to try to get down there and upsetting the balance of the car. We are rolling the speed through there. So rolling the steering wheel in, transferring the weight nice and progressively on those right tires to give us maximum lateral grip. We have a little bit of brake in here, not a threshold brake. If we put too much brake in here and crank the steering wheel, we're going to spin, frankly. So what we want to do is we want to have a little brake to slow the car down and keep the weight on the front, but we also want to have that nice smooth transition with our hands. Once we've basically turned in, we're going to start getting off the brake very gingerly, because we want to keep a little bit of weight on the front tires to add grip up there. We're going downhill off camber, so again, like the previous corner, the car is going to want to understeer here, and this is where I was really fighting understeer in the car with the setup. So we have to be patient through here. That's the key word, is patience, patience, patience. So you'll actually see how long I wait until I get on throttle. I get on throttle here, basically. And even on this particular lap, you can see I tried to get to throttle early, and then I had to come back out of it because it was too early. Because as soon as I went to throttle, the front end of the car just wanted to wash out. So I got back off the throttle, got back on the brake, until I got the car pointed to where I wanted to go, and then back on full throttle. The key is vision through these two corners. It's vision, always is vision, but it's really imperative here. We want to be looking through the corner. We want to be looking where we want the car to go. If we're looking just right in front of the corner, right here, we're going to drive the car there, and we're going to run out of track on the exit. We want to be looking all the way out here to track out. And when we do that, our hands and our feet will drive us to where we're looking, and we'll know when to accelerate. If you are a point-to-point person where you got to have a point of reference on when you can add throttle or something, I will offer this. If we go to cockpit, the banner here for start finish on the front straight, that is a good location for if the car is pointed at the banner and you're down by the apex curbing. Like your apex point is here and your car is basically starting to point at the banner, you can be full throttle through there. Boom. See? Full throttle. I've already started to leave the curbing a little bit on here, but if you're pointed at that banner coming through and you're at the apex point, you can be full throttle and you should be able to make the corner. So that's a good visual if you need it. So this is what it looks like. Coming through here, brake, nice smooth hands, turn in. Looking for the banner, there's the banner, boom, full throttle, all the way through. If you're using vision instead of the banner, the nice thing about the banner is it forces you to keep your eyes up. You have to keep your eyes above 20 feet from in front of you, or else you'll never see the banner. But if you're using your vision the way it should be used, you should be looking as far as you can see. So I am looking over here with my eyes, and my vision stays there. I'm looking all the way over at this access road because that's where I ultimately want the car to be, over here, right? So that's where I'm looking. I'm not looking here. I'm looking all the way down the road. And then when I start tracking out, am I looking at the track out point here? No, I'm looking at the service road, and I'm actually starting to look at where, almost visualize how my car is going to take the next corner. That's how far ahead. I'm always looking a step ahead in the track. If we do it right, we'll end up right here. Boom. Left side tires on the candy stripe. If we go any further right than this, we will pick up a 1X. And it's before your left side tires leave the candy stripe. You'll pick up a 1X. So keep the left side tires on the candy stripe. Don't let them touch the green. If they touch the green, that's where a 1X is going to come from. All right, let me show you that without me interrupting it every single second. Brake, smooth. Hands all the way in. Patience. Wait. Now get on the throttle on the way through. You can see how much I'm letting the car coast, which is perfectly fine. It's scrubbing speed and it's allowing me to be on the proper line. Okay, coming into the next left-hander.
Chris.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
You didn't use the curb on that turn.
No, I don't like it. You can. That is another line. I don't like it because here's my theory and my thought about it. Some people use it and love curbs. I'm looking at Raphael Amarim. He loves curbs. He can kill them, and he can do it consistently every time. I wish I had that skill. I don't have it. Whenever I get the car off two wheels or basically upset the balance of the car, I don't like it because it introduces another variable that I'm at the mercy of how I hit the bump. This curb can do two things. One, it can benefit you in the sense of it can bounce you a little bit and give you a little bit more rotation as soon as you hit the curb, which is great, and that's what you're looking for. It can also open the corner a little bit. You're taking a little bit of a wider line in here, and you've increased the radius of the corner, so you theoretically can carry a couple miles an hour. What it also can do is if you don't hit it perfect, instead of rotating the car, it can actually just bounce the car out to the right. So you end up on a worse line further out, and you have to overslow the car to bring it back in. You don't have to worry about those variables if you don't touch the curb. Because at this point, I've got maximum G-forces and maximum load in my car on the right side. The last thing I want to do is upset the balance that I've already worked so hard to put into the car to give me the most grip possible. And so if I stay off that curbing, I take that variable out. Now, is this the fastest lap possible? No, there's always people that are faster than me that can bang out a faster lap. Is it consistent? Yes. And I think I demonstrated that from earlier on when these were the very first laps of practice. And I did, after 4 laps, I popped off 4 laps in a row within a tenth of each other. So I'm looking for consistency for race pace. I'm not looking for that 1 lap banger that is going to maybe put me on pole. Great. But then I got to do it for 40 minutes straight. So I tend to practice like I race, and that's why I don't hit that curb. But like I said, if you're like Raphael or you're like some of those other drivers that can hit curbs reliably the same way every time and get the benefit of them without running the risk of getting on the negative of that, great, do it. It may benefit you. I'm just not one of those drivers.
Quick question. On this fixed setup, what brake bias are you running? Like 2 clicks back?
I ended up putting it 2 clicks back. Yeah. So I ended up going to the rear twice. And that felt pretty reasonable without getting overtly unstable under braking. Remember, brake bias only affects your car if you're braking, right? So if you're having handling issues when you're not touching the brakes, then it's not a brake bias issue. The only time you're going to feel it with brake bias is on basically corner entry where you're trail braking. So keep that in mind.
Chris, just to make sure, is that turning it from roughly 51% to closer to 51.5,
Correct.
52?
Let's see here. So
No, I think the other way around.
I think it's 50.53.
yeah, so I'm sitting at 0.53.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Good questions. Great questions. All right. So yeah, slow hands, nice and smooth. It's okay to let the car coast. It's doing what it needs to do. You're giving it traction to get us through there. If you go through this corner correctly, you'll end up right here on the outside on the curbing. We're going to leave it here because we're already in a good spot for the next left-hander. Much like the previous corner, but also different. We don't have to fight the downhill like the previous corner. And also it's not off camber to the extent that the previous corner was as well. This is more of a flat corner with a little bit of camber helping us. So the corner tends to feel better, but it's very much the same type of corner. So as we come through here, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of have the same kind of mentality. Our brake zone is going to be just after as we cross over onto the access road. Left side tires again, look right here, right inside the track surface. Totally fine. That's not a 1X. Wide entry to where we start to bring it in nice and easy. Again, letting the car coast. But unlike the previous corner, we can pick up throttle a lot sooner because the track is actually helping us. We actually have some camber, and that is demonstrated by us being able to actually see the track surface. Pick up throttle. The idea when we pick up throttle, we're only adding throttle. We don't want to pick up throttle and come out of throttle and then go back. That's losing time. If we just wait till when we go to throttle, we're going to stay on throttle. That's the fastest way. Much like the previous corner, there's a little bit of a cheat sheet here. That is the red banner on the outside here that you can see up here, the bridge. When you are on the curb or on your apex point over here on the left, when you front of your car is pointed at that bridge, you can be full throttle and you will make the corner. So bridge, point at the bridge, full full throttle. So you can see here coming in, coasting, coasting, coasting. I'm starting to add a little bit of throttle earlier because I had a really good entry. So I'm before it, but when I get to full throttle, my car is pretty much pointed at the bridge. The bridge is safe. You can do it probably a little bit earlier, but then you run a risk of running too wide here. So just make sure you're comfortable with it. But if your front of your car is pointed at the bridge and you're on the inside curbing, you can be full throttle and you'll make the corner. We'll run all the way out. Don't get your left side tires on the green, or that's a 1X. But everything else is game. So as long as we can run all the way wide, we want to make it as straight as possible through here, shortest distance. So as you can see, following the angle of the track through here. I like to let the car run because I'm trying to keep the steering as straight as possible to minimize the scrub so I can maximize my rate of acceleration. And we're also going to end up on the left side of the track for the penultimate corner anyway. All right, second to last corner is a fun one. It's downhill, like you're like sending it off a cliff into a bowl and hoping that it's going to catch. It's very easy to overdrive this corner, get on throttle too soon, and frankly just get an oversteer situation that you either have to counter steer and slide it through, which is not fast, or you J-hook it into the gravel on the left. We don't want to do either, right? So the best way that I can suggest to do this is we just want to roll the speed. We're going downhill. We don't have to get on the accelerator and accelerate through this corner because the track is helping us maintain momentum. So I like to brake right here, basically at the 75 board, if there was one, equal distance between 100 and 50. If you're having trouble with the corner, bring it back to 100 and overslow the car till you get comfortable with it and then slowly start picking up speed. But for me, I like to brake at about right here, the 75 board. And then my goal here is after the 50, I turn in, I'm in fourth gear. I don't go down to third gear. I know it's very tempting to go to third gear. I don't like it because again, we're going downhill. There's no reason why I need to accelerate fast. Gravity is helping me. I will use the curb here. So everything I said previous about not using curbs, I'm a liar because I do use the curb here because it helps extend the radius of this corner. So I'm trying to draw as straight a line as possible. But the big difference is I'm not on throttle through here. I am just kind of coasting down the hill. So I am not adding torque through those rear tires that are coming off the ground and bouncing all over the place. I'm just sending my car like a missile down the hill. I don't get on throttle until I come off the backside of the curb. And at this point, the track has flattened out downhill. The car wants to understeer at this point. So by adding full throttle with a lot of steering angle, it's okay because I'm just going to get understeer if I get anything. Where people tend to run into trouble is they tend to turn in here and then mash the throttle. So basically what ends up happening is you turn in here, you've mashed the throttle, the car is unsettled, and you can try to overwhelm those rear tires. Or they go in too hot, and then they hit the brakes right here. And if you hit the brakes right here, guess what happens? You're putting the weight on the nose, you're taking the weight off the rears, you're taking traction away from the rears when you need the most, going around a really fast sweeping right-hander, no traction on the rears. Those are going to be the first things to let go, and you end up looping the car. So nice and steady platform. When we add throttle, we want to add it progressively and definitively to plant the rear of the car into the ground so we don't spin. And if we have the right angle, we'll end up right here in fourth gear, which sets us up perfectly for the final corner. So I'm going to back it up and show what it looks like without stopping it. Brake just after the 100 board. Downshift to fourth, turn in, coast, start adding throttle, open our hands, end up right here. The rule of thumb is try to keep your left side tires in the green. They can nibble the red and still not get a 1X. If your left side tires go completely over the green, you're going to get a 1X. So this is fine. This is fine. Anything where all these two left tires go over the green, that's not fine. You'll get a 1X. That being said, a 1X here is not the end of the world. It's actually faster because you're taking more speed, so you're ending up out here a little bit more. and it gives you an even better angle going into the final corner. So if you're going to take a 1X, this is the place to take it. If it's going to prevent you from, losing the car, just open your hands and take a wide line, and then just make sure you drive through it and get the benefit of that 1X, not only from the second to last corner, but also the last corner on entry. But let's assume we're not doing 1Xs here. We're going to brake. Basically, my thought process when I come down here is as soon as I get the car straight, as soon as I get it like fully straight, I start getting on the brakes. So brake there. And then I'm going to turn in basically when the grass starts, as I'm initially starting my turn in. I'm not looking here at all. I am not looking anywhere right here. I am looking over here through the corner. Basically what I always tell myself is I want my right side tires to clobber that yellow curbing, and I still haven't hit it yet. So I always turn like I want to try to kill that curbing. But we're going downhill. The car is not very responsive because of the because gravity's hurting us. So you turn in and it's always a delay. And then on top of that, when it finally turns, you get understeer. So the front end kind of plows out. So even though I try to hit this curb, I always end up missing it and being in the right spot. So I'm trying to get down to that curb, down to third gear. We want to nibble it right here, ideally. Notice you can see all this track. So as soon as we get down just after apex, the track comes to us and gives us a ton of grip. So basically we go through there, we'll scrape the left side of the car because of the compression, and then boom, full throttle in third gear. Again, much like the previous run out from the previous corner, so long as we keep our left side tires in the green, we're good. If we nibble the red or get all the left side tires into the red significantly, we're going to get a 1X. If we go even further than that, there is a slowdown if you run too wide here. So just be aware of that. And that's a lap of Red Bull Ring. So I'm going to... Any questions on those last couple corners?
What gear was that
Third gear.
at the apex?
Fourth gear for the second to last turn, third gear for the last turn.
And what was the track off track there, Chris? Was it right tires on the red or green?
No.
White or left tires on the
left
green?
side tires don't go outside the green with the left side tire.
Okay, left side
On
tires
the green,
stay
yeah.
solid.
If your
green.
left side tires cross over the green, you'll get a 1X. If I think it's the middle of your car goes over the green, you're gonna get a slowdown. So that's the rule. So as long as your tires are touching the green, you should be good. All right, so let's see what this looks like from inside. All right, so screaming down the front straight, we're going to be going uphill. Really, really short braking area. We're going to brake at the 100 board, roll our speed down to second gear, off the brakes, on the throttle, kiss the curbing on the outside. Draw a straight line through turn 2. Let the car run all the way up the gears. We're going to brake at the 100 board. And much like turn 1, we're going to get off the brakes after turn in, try to make it as straight as possible. Down to first gear, off the brakes, slowly feed the throttle on as we unwind the wheel to get a good run. Down the next straightaway, we're going to be looking again at the 100 board. We're going to brake just before it, like the 110, 115. So brake right here, second gear. Always feels like I'm turning in early. Off the brakes, hit the curb, back on full throttle. Slowly move the car over to the right. We're going to brake just before the 50 board. Smooth hands through here. Brake, third gear, let it coast, let it coast. Wait for you to see the billboard. There it is, boom, full throttle. Brake at the access road. Turn in, down to third gear, look for the board. There it is, full throttle. Let the car run all the way out to the end. We're going to brake at the 75 board. Down to fourth gear, pitch the car in, let it coast, full throttle. Brake as soon as we get it straight. Try to kill that curb. We can never get there. Third, full throttle. These laps are so quick. We'll just show the next one. I have no idea how I did on this one, but we'll see. It should be similar. Brake at the 100 board. Off the brake in second gear. Back on full throttle. Looking around me, looking to see if there's any cars behind me. Checking my fuel numbers. Brake just before the 100 board here. Down to first gear. Turn in. Off the brake. Roll the speed. Open the hands while I added throttle. Brake just before the 100 board. Always feels like we're turning in a little bit early in second gear. Get on the curb. As we come in through the mid part of the corner, back on full. See, I missed the curve. Actually, that's a good thing to see there. I missed it on this one. And this is why I always have problems with this corner. So same thing. Brake just before the 100 board. Threshold braking. Whereas before I said I didn't brake as hard. The difference is I tried to brake a little bit too late on this one. I tried to eke out a little bit more time. So I did threshold braking. I went all the way. I mean, like, I'm basically almost 100% braking force. I'm in ABS at this point. I'm standing the car on its nose. I can't get the balance of the car properly on turn in. So you can actually see I've started to turn the wheel basically right here, and I'm still got threshold braking. Front end of the car is not going to turn with that. The tires are saying, well, you want 100% braking force, and now you want lateral G's as well. We can't do that. We can't do both. So you're only going to get braking. So that's what ends up happening. So what ends up happening is I turn in, but I don't get that bite that I want because the car is on its nose. And the result is I'm late to the corner. I completely miss where I want to be. I want to be over here with my right side tires on the curbing to extend the radius of the corner. I have to ride the brake because I'm going too fast. Ride it. Try to recover. So I start adding throttle where I normally would. And look what happens. The front of the car just, you can actually physically see the car understeer. So there's the rotation, add the throttle, and it just pushes straight. And then it finally hooks up towards the end. I'm all the way out here towards the curbing, and I think I lost 0.2 through that one corner. So that's why it's so important that you don't always have to threshold brake to go fast around here. If I would have broke a little bit earlier, I would have been in a much better place from a car balance perspective for turn in, and I would have been able to maintain the proper point. Anyway, good teaching moment. My mistakes. Oh, it just makes me feel, I can feel it in my bones, the scrub and the understeer. All right, so coming in here, brake just before the 50 board, down to third gear, turn in, roll the speed. That I just nibbled the curb that time. Ended up okay. Roll the speed through, back on full throttle, open my hands.
Notice some people taking out people pulling into the pits here.
Yeah, we're going to talk about pit in just a second. Hit the curb. I think that was a 1X right there. Third gear. Good run through. So yeah, that's Red Bull Ring. Is there any question on the line on the track before we talk about pit in? All right, hearing none. All right, let's talk about pit in. Pit in. One of the grossest pit ins. Actually, let's go all the way to I hate this pit in, but somebody taught me this and it works really well. So the pit in here is really tight coming through the penultimate corner, second to last corner. Where the line is, you just hammer it and run all the way through. Pit in, you got to keep it nice and tight. And if you try to keep it tight, it's a lot of times, but still have a lot of speed attacking, you tend to run too wide and you can't get it back down pit road. I've done it in races. It's no fun. But then somebody taught me this. So when you come in, everything's the same, absolutely the same coming into this corner right here. Brake at the same point, everything. However, all you do is you just hold the brake a little bit longer on the way in, and then you just kind of coast around the corner. Just coast around the corner. Maybe a little maintenance throttle on the way out, and you end up putting yourself in a good line coming in. So as you're coming through this corner, instead of thinking brake, turn in, hit the curb, and then at this point you would be powering out. At this point you'd be thinking, okay, I'm about to kill the throttle and get a good run through here. You just don't do that. You just wait a little bit, wait, a little bit of maintenance throttle. Basically keep that same trajectory as your entry, and you'll just end up down pit lane with a constant steering angle. So if you look at my steering wheel over here, I don't change it. I turn in and I kind of just hold it there. Just hold it there. Just hold it there. Just hold it there. And I end up in a good spot. The important thing, though, is if you're following a car that's going to go down pit lane, you don't want to run over them. So if you're 2 inches off a car that's about to head down pit lane and you hammer it where you normally would and they don't, yeah, you're going to run into the back of them. And guess who's at fault? Not the car pitting in, the car following, because you just drove into the back of them. If you're around pit cycle time, always be ready for the car. Expect the car in front of you to dive down pit lane, and then be pleasantly surprised when they don't. So what I will end up doing in those scenarios is I will actually lift and coast, like lift back here. If I'm 2 inches off their bumper, I will lift back here, let the gap grow, take the corner like this, and then I will start bringing it back on the exit. So if they do dive down pit lane, I've got room to react, and it won't affect my run coming out of the corner. So I sacrifice the entry to get a good run on the exit. You also save a little bit of fuel when you coast into the brake zone. So if you do it right, you won't lose any time. But don't ride somebody's bumper all the way into where they would go down pit lane, because you will run into the back of them. Similarly, on the way out of pit lane, I don't think I have a video. I didn't get video of it. You got to be careful on the way out. It's very easy to get the car loose on cold tires and bang that Armco on the way out. So you just have to crack the throttle. You can't be full throttle going through there. So treat it like a corner. The other thing about pit entry is when you come through here, this is all racetrack still. The cones aren't until right before the pit boxes. So this is all racetrack. So treat it as such. So you can see here, I'm full throttle. I'm accelerating. Brake, treat this like a corner. Apex it. Boom. Accelerate. And then find your marker where you're comfortable, where you need a brake. Mine is just, I go around this last little right-hander, and then as soon as I straighten my car out, I get on the brakes firm. There's a lot of drivers that won't do that. They'll go down pit lane like, oh, I'm going to be pitting, and they just kind of trundle all the way down there. That's seconds that they're losing by not attacking. So you attack to the cone. Hope that helps.
It's also a really fast pit lane.
Yeah, 50 miles an hour. Faster than us. That's Daytona pit lane speed, almost. Okay, let's talk about passing zones real quick. As I mentioned before, turn 1, don't pass here. The reason you don't pass here is for 2 reasons. 1, 2 cars going too wide through this corner are slow, and you're going to be slow to the rest of the field, to the most important corner on the track. So if you go too wide through turn 1, you are giving the field 1.5, 2 seconds easily. So before you make that move, understand, do I want to do that? The other reason you don't do it is, guess what? You just dove the other car. You successfully passed them. Let's say you lost minimal time, but he's now on your bumper all the way down the longest straightaway. So while GT3 cars don't get a big draft, they do get a draft. He's going to be on your rear bumper, probably got a better run coming through the corner, frankly, if he just tucked in behind you. And he is going to draft you all the way down, and he's probably going to be able to get by you even before the brake zone into turn 3. So the risky move you made into turn 1 not only made you slow through turn 1, but you may not actually even complete the pass or get to hold it, because he'll be back on you at the brake zone in turn 3. That's why I like to delay my pass going into turn 3 instead of turn 1, because in turn 3 there's the straightaway after is much shorter, and it's much more difficult to get a good run on somebody if you're going too wide through there. So keep that in mind. So this is in my opinion, this is the position 1A. This is the best passing zone on track. I would seriously practice breaking offline here and taking alternate lines through here to see what is comfortable and what works well. That would help you be able to that'll help you get it, that'll enable you to to practice it and be ready for it for race day rather than trying to attempt it on race day when you actually need it to happen. There's multiple lines through here. Another line that I didn't show that is possible is a even later turn in. So instead of getting all the way down to the apex point right here, you just displace it by like half a car width. So you're out here. You don't have nearly as severe tabletop when you come up, which means your traction is kind of more consistent, so you can get on throttle sooner. You travel a little bit of a further distance, but you're able to get on throttle sooner, so it kind of washes. But if you're going too wide, you can definitely keep it around the outside and get on the throttle even sooner than somebody that is on your inside and get a better run coming up. But yeah, this is probably the best place to pass. Another great place to pass would be right here, coming into turn 4. Difficult, challenging corner. Usually the car on the inside will take this corner. Key things to remember, though, if you are the inside car making a pass, don't outbrake yourself. It's very easy to try to get these big eyes saying, I'm going to make this pass and complete it. And so I'm going to outbrake my opponent. And so you wait for them to brake before you hit the brakes. And what ends up happening is you brake too late and you just sail through the corner and they undercut you. Make sure you're disciplined enough to where even though you're offline, you're still going to hit the brake marker and still make the corner. If you park it on the apex, that's fine. They can't drive through you. That's a legitimate way to pass. But if you sail through too far, they're just going to go underneath you and undercut you, and you're going to look silly. So, but this is probably the second best place to pass. I don't like passes here. The cars are just, everybody's going so fast. It's very difficult to get on the inside and get alongside somebody in a good spot to make this pass. And so just be careful through there. Same thing with the next corner. Difficult to get alongside someone to make a clean pass going through here. It's just kind of single file through here if all the cars are equal. Second to last corner, very tempting. I see a lot of instances where somebody got a really good run through those double left-handers, and now they're getting up alongside and they've got a run on the car in front of them, and they're coming up to this brake zone. The only way I would make a pass coming into this corner is if I am completely alongside my opponent, like right here. In fact, maybe even a little bit ahead of them. If you are behind them at all, don't dive them into this corner because it never ends well. If you're on the outside and somebody looks to make a pass here, I would just lift and let them go and tuck in behind them and try to get a good run coming out of these corners onto the front straight. The reason why you don't want to be on the outside through here is if anybody makes a mistake, guess where they're going? They're going outside on the track, right into you. So if you're taking this too wide and you're the outside car, if something goes wrong, they hit the curb, they spin, they're going to take you with them. The inside car has all the advantage. But even at that point, it's so sketchy to go too wide through this corner. I just really don't recommend it, despite the run. Unless you're alongside them and, you know, they have to yield, I wouldn't do it. And then this final corner, again, it's not a passing zone. Rarely does anybody get a good enough run coming through that corner to be able to get alongside someone safely to go into this corner. So I wouldn't even attempt it. Just stay nice in line. Be patient. Be patient through turn 1. Get a good run through turn 1. Get a good draft all the way down that big, long straightaway. And then have a really good opportunity to pass going into turn 3. Anyway, that's Red Bull Ring. It's 7:02, so I'm guessing the EDE session is open. I recommend go practice what you learned here. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'll hang around for a few minutes. Feel free to ask them. Otherwise, have fun. Good luck in this week's race, and yeah, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Michael McKinney. So what does this mean to look for you to make the pass for winter? I don't think I understand your question, Mike. The only time I would pass in turn 1 is if you're coming up on a slower car, like you're, you know, a lap car, and it's a joke. I figured that was the case, but let's take it into a topic. When would passing into turn 1 make sense? when you're passing an off-pace car, or a car you have significant pace on, where you can get alongside them and get by them, and they know that you're going to pass them. Absolutely, take it when if they allow it and you're going to lose minimal time. Take it. Don't just sit behind them if they're going to stop the car. The second thing about turn one where you could make a pass is if you're coming up to the final lap and you've been fighting with the other driver for a number of laps now, and you just can't seem to get it to work into turn three. You're on your last lap. It doesn't matter if you lose time through there. Okay, that's a different story. Maybe try to see if you can make something work where you haven't done it before, and give it a shot. If you're not going to lose a place by doing it, or nobody's going to catch up to you, absolutely give it a shot. If you're battling for the lead and second place is 5 seconds back, give it a shot on the final lap. Just know that you may have to defend going into turn three to fight back. But if you're in the middle of the race or it's early in the race and you're battling against somebody with equal pace, passing them into turn one is just going to lose you time to the rest of the field that it doesn't make sense to do. So.
Hey, Chris, the two left-handers that you recommend not passing, let's say you are on the racing line, that right-hander prior, and you got a car that's on the inside and he's trying to overtake you. And now at the exit of that right-hander, you're side by side. Do you let off and fall in behind him, or do you stay on the inside?
If we are truly side by side, door to door through there, and I'm on the inside and he's on the outside of the corner on the entry, I'll keep it there because I have all the advantage and he doesn't, right? You don't want to be the outside car there because, again, if there's a problem, the inside car is gonna run into the outside car. Also, the outside car has to go the long way around in the marbles. It's difficult to do. So if I've got the position through those two corners, I'll keep it there, right? I'm not just going to straight up lift and tuck in. But if this is somebody if it's a situation where you've been driving around, let's say in P10, and P11 was 5 seconds back, and this is now P11 a couple laps later, he obviously has pace, or they obviously have pace on you. They drove to you. They made up that time, which suggests they are faster than you just on a normal pace. It may be wise just to give them a little bit of a lift, tuck in behind them, and see if you can get them to pull you along via the draft, or learn something from them to see why they are going a second a lap faster than you. That makes sense not to try to fight them in that scenario. So you kind of have to see what it is. But if it's just like, hey, I've been battling with this other driver for multiple laps now, he just happened to get a good run on me, he's now on my outside going into that left-hander, yeah, he's gonna have to work for it to get around, or they're gonna have to work for it to get around.
Okay, thanks.
Great question, though. Any others? Okay, sounds like that is it. Well, thank you guys for coming to the classroom. We'll be doing it in a couple of weeks. Good luck to the next little bit. The replay, I will basically set it to start uploading immediately. So it'll be here. The replay will be live on Twitch instantly, but for YouTube, it usually takes an hour or so for it to upload. So, but I'll put it up immediately. But yeah, good luck this week at Red Bull Ring. Fun track. It should be a lot of fun with these GT3s. I mean, this is the kind of track that it's built for. So have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Enjoy it. And of course, if you have any questions, just message me or any of the other instructors here on PCA Discord, and we'll be happy to help. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. So long.
Yep. Thanks, Chris.